Member for Chifley.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And if I may also extend my thanks to the Chair as well, and the way that he is obviously in these issues. There are a wide variety of views and issues that need to be canvassed, and he's managing to cover all those views in a very fair and even way, and I appreciate his efforts in that, as well as all the efforts of the Secretariat and my colleagues from all parties that are on the committee. Last year, lending for investment in residential real estate was roughly double that for owner-occupiers. And if you want to see how that's translating on the ground, on the weekend in Sydney, the clearance rate for property purchases hit nearly 90% of the 1,120 homes taken to market, slightly higher than the week before. In Melbourne, it was close to 80%. And SQM Research is reported today issuing its estimate that house prices in Sydney will lift by about 15% this year and about 12% in Melbourne. And in the Financial Review, the property analyst from SQM, Louis Christopher, is quoted as saying, "The market is in a frenzy." Much of the growth is being driven by investors who are getting access to finance in a relatively easy way, raising the eyebrows of the regulator APRA, as canvassed in the comments that are contained in this report. APRA is taking a methodical but very slow-paced approach to dealing what has been described, as I said earlier, as a market frenzy. And the growth of house prices in two major cities is a great concern, particularly in terms of whether or not it's sustainable into the longer term. It's also creating social issues in the electorate I represent here in this place. Real estate agents will often tell me that investors are well and truly taking the lion's share of new home purchases in areas like Mount Druitt, which is causing a great issue if you're concerned about affordability and young people getting a start in the market when they're being outbid by investors. That is a big issue, because that means that people get driven further and further onto the urban fringes, and there is enough evidence to show that governments at all levels take their time in investing in the type of infrastructure which the RBA even says will help in easing housing affordability, that is, better transport infrastructure close to employment. So what's being done about it? APRA wrote to lenders in December indicating it was going to start taking a position on this and calling on them to effectively report in on what they're doing. In many cases, I would describe the very lukewarm response from lenders as being the equivalent of an auto email reply, where they note the comments and will get back to the regulator in due course. The regulator has then, as has been observed, been taking more soundings about what is going on, and has been concerned about the way in which different lenders will lend to the same borrower and the amounts of money that will be lent. Their answer to this is that they're thinking about applying macroprudential tools, which they informed us at the last hearing would involve higher capital requirements, well and above what Basel's recommending, well and above what the FSI has recommended, would apply individually. But what they did say, which caught us by surprise on the committee, is they will apply these tools individually, which is not an issue so far as that they will do it individually and privately, that this would not be a market reportable event to shareholders, and that it would be kept behind closed doors. If we're wanting to see serious action on this, the lenders that are out there that are causing market frenzies do need to be held into account, and certainly I can understand other lenders chasing those other lenders that are out there trying to seize market share, and something has to be done. It is well and truly time for APRA to take the garden hose out and apply the regulatory cold shower on this frenzy that's occurring. They can't do it behind closed doors. They do need to be transparent. They do need to ensure that lenders lend responsibly, and that we don't have an artificial driving of growth through investment in residential property that is an impact on housing affordability, but is also a concern from an economic perspective about how it's skewing things, particularly in terms of Sydney and Melbourne, and how the RBA is often being questioned as to whether or not they will continue to drive down interest rates if they're concerned about whether or not that'll have an impact on, for instance, that'll have an impact on housing prices in two big markets. It is a big issue. We certainly think APRA needs to move on it effectively, properly, but also do it transparently.
I thank the member for